getting comfortable here on your back, about the middle of your mat. Everybody has been muted. So if you want to let out some deep sighs, feel free to do that. You want to begin with those nice deep inhales and those nice deep exhales. And I invite you to stay here on your backs, knees bent or knees straight as long as you want. You can join me as we move on from this pose, or you can kind of stay right where you're at, just breathing. You kind of just want to sense what you need in your body and mind this morning. Drawing in that full breath, releasing. Feel heavy on the mat here. And just begin to become present. So present in this moment, not thinking about the events of yesterday or the events of tomorrow, just staying here, trying to let go of any distractions that come up. One way to stay present is by listening to that breath. So as I was saying, the great thing about yoga is we do have control over that breath. Very slowly, if you want to join me, we're just going to bend our knees and plant the feet right underneath the knees onto the mat, roughly about hip distance apart. You want a little bit of space there. And you want to kind of extend your spine from the crown of the head to the tailbone. So don't let that tailbone curl up, but yet try to lengthen through the tailbone. Take a couple of deep breaths. Try to ungrip any muscles in the glutes and the hips. And then ever so carefully, just kind of reach for that block and just begin to curl up and lift the tailbone up off the mat, just the height of that low setting on the block. So just, I guess that's 3 inches that you're going to lift up. And then just set your sacrum right on top of that block. Turn your palms up. Take a couple more deep breaths. Just by grounding here, this helps us to become a little bit more present in the moment. Now I want us just to kind of pay attention to the low back. And if you want, you can bend your elbows and kind of take your hands underneath that low back arch. So you want to make sure that that low back arch is free from the block, that the block is under the hips and the tailbone and not in that lumbar spine. so that you can kind of feel that natural curve in the low back. And then very carefully, I want us just to creep our toes forward. So you're just walking your feet maybe about an inch at a time. And you want to keep the pelvis from tilting up. So you want to just stay heavy and grounded on that block. Don't let that arch change in your back. And as you lengthen the legs, just kind of hang out here, and you're going to feel a little stretch in the front of the body. And think of this maybe as just a supported back bend, relieving tightness in the hip flexors, the shoulders, the front of the body. Kind of undoing anything in our body that has been created by kind of that long sitting period or rounded shoulders. If there's any discomfort in that low back, just walk those feet in just a little bit. And just taking one more breath here. Full inhale. Full exhale. And then go ahead and walk your feet back in so that the feet are underneath the knees. Just slightly lift those hips up in a bridge pose. Slide the block out. Before we lower down, we're going to come up onto our tippy toes. So lift your heels in your bridge, and then slowly, keeping those heels lifted, start to roll down to the mat. So upper back, middle back, draw the navel to the spine. Keep that tailbone curled up for just another moment. And then exhale, let it roll out. So you can sink the heels back down to the mat. Perfect. All right. Reach this right heel out, maybe towards the ceiling, or just straightening the leg. Reach through the heel. You can point and flex that ankle. And then bend the knee. Cross that right ankle over your left knee. And just take a moment here to just lift that right hip open. Don't be in a rush for our upside down pigeon pose. It's coming. But you want to stabilize at the hips. You want to lengthen through the spine. And then maybe you can start to draw that left knee in. Perhaps reach the hands behind the left thigh. Nothing too fancy. Just getting a little hip opening on that right side. Let the shoulders stay down to the mat. Try to refrain from, curling up or crunching up to accomplish the stretch. And very slowly, go ahead and take the feet back down, uncross, and we'll switch sides. So extending through that left leg and heel. Perfect. Flex and point the ankle. And bend the knee, cross the left ankle over that right knee. So just maybe comparing what one hip can do compared to the other. Sometimes there's a little bit more mobility in one side versus the other. Again, not being in any rush this morning. And you can stay here, or perhaps you just begin to draw that right knee in and reach around that back right thigh. So there's a tendency here excuse me, when it's hard to reach, that we want to curl up to reach that thigh, or we want to kind of, arch the back a little bit and jut the chin up. So you want to just keep the length in the spine and the shoulders soft. All the feels should be in this left outer hip. And go ahead and release. And we're going to take a couple of nice slow twists. So take an inhale to prepare. And then on our exhale, just slowly dropping the knees to the right. And stay grounded through the shoulders. Breathe through that side waist. Next inhale, coming back through to the center. And use your exhale. Slowly with control, knees fall to the left. Feeling this in the right hip, the right side waist. Send your breath there. You can feel those intercostal muscles spreading and contracting with each breath. And then very slowly coming back to the center here. And let's just hug our knees up in towards our chest. So initially, we're just going to hug the knees into the chest, but we're going to keep the shoulders to the mat and the head and the neck reach through the crown of the head. So you're just drawing those knees in without really engaging the abdomen. And then slight release of those legs, and then just take those knees around in a circle. Doesn't matter which direction you go to start with. You're going to feel that gentle massage on the low back. Remember to breathe. And then switching directions. Notice how that gives a great massage into that lower back, sacral area. All right, and then if you want here, you can just take the knees wide and then bring the knees together. Take the knees wide and bring them together. So just circling outer circles, coming back in to the center. And if you want to change these, you can draw the knees in and then out, in and then out. Perfect. All right, let's reach this, doesn't matter, left or right arm up, and just kind of roll on to one side. So just like we come out of Shavasana into a sideline position. And I want us just to really notice that the head and neck are supported on that lower arm. I like to think of my bicep as a nice little pillow here. Pay attention to the spine here for just a minute. The spine is really free here towards natural curves. No restriction on the breath. And then very slowly, let's just use that top hand. And we're going to press up to a seated position. So we should all roughly be about the center of our mat. Nice slow start to our practice this morning. Let's take our right hand out to the side, put a little bend into the elbow, reach up on an inhale, and exhale, side bend. Try to keep the shoulders stacked here. And on your inhale, coming up, switching sides. It's getting into that sideways. Try to stay grounded through both sits bones, inhaling up and exhaling over. Soft bend into the elbow. If the elbow is straight and you're straight arming it, there's just nowhere to really go. So you want to soften that lower arm so that you can just stretch a little farther. One more time each side. If you remember which side you started, which was hopefully the right, then we're ending on the left side. Perfect. All right. Coming back up to seated. We're just going to put our hands down on the top of our knees. We're just going to do a nice little seated cat and cow. So inhaling, lifting the heart, lifting the chin, lifting the gaze. Let the pelvis kind of draw forward. The navel's coming down a little closer to the mat. And then on your exhale, navel to the spine, chin to the chest, seated cat pose, and inhale, lift. So we want to get a little bit of rocking here of the pelvis. Call this a pelvis tilt. So drawing the navel to the spine helps to posteriorly tilt the pelvis. Inhale, reach up to the heart. Gaze. And then just continue to breathe here. So yoking your breath with your movement. One more round. And then coming up nice and tall to a seated position. I'm just going to take one little twist to each side, but I want us to do this very mindfully and slowly. So just start to walk your hands over to maybe this left thigh, just kind of feeling your way. Stay grounded through the sits bones. Feel the twist happening about the navel on up. And then lastly, look over that left shoulder. So not reaching back with that left hand, but staying nice and tall, rooting up through the sitting bones, through the crown of the head. Just spiral twist. Take one more inhale, growing taller, and then exhale, coming back to the center. And then we'll just slowly make our way to the other side, reaching with the hands for that thigh, spiral twist. Go over the right shoulder. Staying nice and tall through the torso. And coming back to the center. All right, bring the soles of the feet together. And you can hold on to ankles, baby peace fingers to big toes, whatever feels comfortable to you. Take a nice deep inhale to lift. And then on your exhale, start to draw yourself forward. You want to lead with the chest. Keep the spine nice and long. Don't allow the back to round. And coming back up. All right, and take the knees together. We're going to come into just a little baby boat pose. So this is going to engage our core. So one great thing about sitting on this folded blanket, there is a method to my madness, is just sometimes we need just a little help patting that tailbone. So just kind of hug the knees into your chest. Hands can go behind the thighs, lift the heels. You're engaging the core, lengthening through the crown of the head. Just find that nice little balancing position. And if you want, you can lift the heels a little higher. Go slowly. Don't be afraid to use the hands for support. And see if you can keep that spine nice and long till you find that comfortable V shape. And very slowly, we'll take the feet back down. Perfect. Let's come on to hands and knees. So we're going to put our knees right on that blanket. I know some of us are going to be very excited about that, right? All right, so walk your hands forward and just keep reaching towards the top of your mat. We're coming into a puppy pose so that the hips stay right over the knees. Lengthening the spine, head bows right between those upper arms. Strong arms, pressing back and away, rooting through the bases of all 10 fingers. Nice deep stretch in the shoulder joints. And then begin to walk yourself back up to hands and knees. We're going to step forward, right foot to that right hand, and then just begin to reach the hips forward. We're going to take a nice little low lunge, getting into that front left hip flexor. So whatever you want to do with your hands, you can walk them forward, you can bring them to the top of your knee. Doesn't really matter, but what we want to accomplish in this stretch is that front left hip flexor. And then take the hips back, straightening that right leg. It doesn't have to come all the way straight. Maybe point and flex that right ankle. And then once again, press the hips forward. We're going to take that left hand down to the mat so it's even with that right foot. Just begin to twist open. Press up out of that left shoulder, opening the heart. And on your exhale, take that right hand down, step back to hands and knees. And in between sides, we're going to take our first child's pose. So take your hips back to your heels. See if you can bow your forehead down to the mat. If your forehead doesn't meet the mat, go ahead and grab that block. We're going to use that block in just a minute anyway. So we want to have it close in. So go ahead and bring it in position right underneath the forehead. Tuck your chin to your chest. Should feel a little bit more stretch in the low back as you root your hips back towards your heels. Let that breath wrap all the way around your back body. All right. Next inhale, we're going to come up to hands and knees. Just set that block right next to you. Keep it close. Left foot comes forward. Low lunge on this other side. So again, emphasis is on opening this right hip flexor. Hips coming forward. Whatever works for you with your arms. As long as you keep the fingertips light and you're not rooting down through that base of the thumb. If it's more comfortable for you, you can climb your hands up to the top of that left thigh. If you want a little bit more energy, you can lift your arms up, but certainly not necessary, especially when you're trying to get all the focus in this front hip flexor. All right, begin to shift the hips back, straightening that left leg, and flexing and pointing the ankle. And just kind of waking up the hamstring here. Leg doesn't have to be completely straight. Perfect. Okay. Take that left knee back, and we'll right knees on the mat here. We're going to come on up to tall kneeling, and we're going to take, I'm going to slightly kind of turn my back to you guys just a little bit. We're going to set that block right on the outside of our right ankle. And choice here would be to tuck the toes under or to take the tops of the feet down to the mat. I think it's a little bit more supportive to have the toes tucking under. We're going to take our hands to the low back, the fingers coming up your back, and try to press the palms down towards the sacrum, and then squeeze the elbows in towards each other. And perhaps just taking a little gentle back bend here. Hips are pressing forward. So we're going to be coming into half camel in just a few moments, but we want to prevent ourselves from just leaning back. We want to keep those thighs nice and vertical. We want this arch in our back. And exhale. Go ahead and take the hips back. You can uncurl the toes if you curl them. And just fold over into a child's pose. With a little counter stretch to that back bend. And begin to make your way back up to tall kneeling. So again, tucking your toes under, making sure that block is in position. Fingers come up the back, palms press in, squeeze the elbows towards each other. You're going to inhale, look up. Now, only if this is comfortable for you, you're going to start to look over that right shoulder and maybe take your hand to the top of that right block. It's right just the outside of the ankle. Now, if you're comfortable here and you want to go deeper, you can come to the heel or you can lower the block. But as long as you want to keep the hips pressing forward, option to take the left arm up and the gaze up, half camel. Nice deep back bend. All right, then tuck your chin to your chest. Go ahead and take that block with you out in front and fold into a child's pose. Perhaps you put the block underneath the hands and just get a nice long stretch here. And then make your way back up to tall kneeling. We'll switch that block to the outside of the left ankle. Palms reach to the back. Squeeze the elbows together. Press the hips forward. Look up. You should be finding that back bend. You can stay here, or you can look over your left shoulder, coming into half camel on this other side. Option to take that right arm up. And very slowly. So you're going to kick the booty back. Walk the hands forward. Uncurl the toes if you curl them. Come back into child's pose. All right, inhale, coming back up to hands and knees. You slide that block off of your mat. We're going to walk our hands forward and come down to that low plank. And very slowly lower on down to our bellies. And inhale, peel up, just a baby cobra. We've done a lot of back bends. We want to feel those muscles actually working to lift. And then exhale, come on back to hands and knees. We're going to tuck our toes under. We're going to come into our first downward facing dog. So now for a little bit of housekeeping, we're going to start to walk our hands back to our blanket, about in the middle of the mat. So you're kind of in a nice little short down dog. And then maybe just kind of slide that blanket up off the side and just hang here, rooting down through the feet for a ragdoll. Nice generous bend into the knees. And any kind of option that works good for you. You can take hands to opposite elbows. You can shake the head yes and no. And then inhale, root to rise. We're going to come all the way up to standing. Exhale, hands to the heart space. So yes, we are a little bit more than halfway through our practice. Very chill start. So closing your eyes here and just finding your mountain pose. Hands can be at the heart space for Anjali Mudra. Of course, bringing an intention to your practice. Tuning back into the breath. Next inhale, reach those arms all the way up overhead. And then on your exhale, swan dive over. Put all the breath out, soft knees. Inhale, lengthening the spine up halfway. Exhale to fold. Inhale, bend the knees, root through the feet. Let's come all the way back up. Stretch for the sky. And then you're going to take the left hand over to the right. And we're just going to take a nice little deep side bend. Next inhale, coming back up tall. Switch your grip. And side bend. Inhale, come up nice and tall. Exhale, swan dive over. Let all that breath out. Make sure the knees are slightly bent here. Inhale, lengthening up halfway. Hands go to the top of the shins to support that low back. This time on our exhale, we're going to bend our knees, but we're just going to take our hands and our knees down to the mat for hands and knees. And we're going to take our hips back to child's pose. Fold the forehead down to the mat. And really see if you can collapse your heart space onto those thighs. Send the breath to your back body. All right, next inhale, hands and knees. Take the hips back, down dog. And perhaps you want to just cycle the legs, bending one knee, straightening the other. Look up to your hands, but what I want us to do is just take this right foot and see if you can walk it up in between the hands. So you kind of inch the foot forward, plant that back left heel, and reach the toes out to that left side of your mat. So your feet are in one tight rope, and they're perpendicular to each other. And then we're just going to root up into warrior two. Gazes over your right fingertips. That right knee is right over the ankle. And then a dancing warrior. Lift that right palm up, reach up for the sky. And on your exhale, cartwheel the hands down to the mat. Pause in your lunge. Step back plank. And then just drop the knees. And tuck the toes under, make our way back to down dog. If you want to move through a vinyasa, I'm certainly not going to stop you, but this is just a nice way to get some of that vinyasa out of our practice. And then we're going to step this left foot forward. So, it may take a couple of steps, but you're placing that left foot between the hands, and then you're going to open that right foot out 90 degrees, and then come on up, warrior two. Gazes over your left fingertips. And flipping that left palm up, reverse your warrior. Feel that nice deep stretch on that left side body. That left knee stays right over the ankle. Shoulders are stacked here. So this left shoulder is kind of over the right shoulder. Don't let it cave forward. Next inhale, warrior two. Take the hands down to the mat. Pause in your lunge. And step back, plank. And we're going to drop the knees down to the mat. But this time we're going to take the knees wide. Almost as wide as the edges of your mat. Big toes together. Root your hips to your heels. Wide knee child's pose. So try to melt the heart down towards the mat. Notice that nice deep opening. And then slowly we're going to come back up to hands and knees. I want us all, while we're on hands and knees, to locate that strap. And we're just going to step the right foot forward and then the left foot forward. And you can just kind of hang here in your ragdoll, and you can hold on to the strap, and you can just sway here a little bit. And then come on up halfway. You've got your strap in either hand. Lengthen through the crown of the head. Exhale, fold. And inhale with the strap. We're coming all the way up top to standing. And exhale. Take that strap and lower it down through the heart space. We've got the strap, doesn't have to be all rolled up. Anyway, we're going to unroll it. Perfect. All right. We're going to come into some balance and some stretch pose. We're going to work on our dancer's pose today. So we warmed up the back a little bit. We've warmed up those hip flexors. What I want us to do is just create a nice big loop with our strap. If you want a wall, feel free to put a hand on the wall. So maybe just that hand is out to the side, or maybe you can face the wall, whichever is comfortable for you. You're just going to take your right foot and loop it into the bottom of your strap. Angle your hand out to the side. So palm is up and the strap is in that right palm. Yeah, so you got this nice opening in that right arm. And we're just going to bend that right foot. So go ahead and start to maybe just wiggle, walk your fingers down that strap. We're not doing a whole lot with the leg, it's just bending. So just the thighs are parallel. And you're just going to take the slack out of that strap so that your elbow is straight and there's no slack in the strap. All right, so then very slowly, maybe just start to lift the foot, lift the hand, and then draw the elbow out towards the side, to the right. And perhaps draw that elbow up towards the ceiling, coming into your dancer's pose. So notice in dancer's pose, you're actually upright. We're trying to achieve a little bit of a back bend here and a little bit of opening into that front hip flexor. So push, just gently push the foot into that strap. You feel those back muscles working, front body stretching. And if you're holding on to the wall like I am, maybe you start to balance, take that hand off the wall. And slowly. So you're just going to let that strap slip through your hand, lower the leg. Nice deep back bend. Okay, go ahead and fold forward. And maybe hang like a rag doll. Maybe twist here a little bit. Just a counter stretch after that back bend. All right, we still have a hold of that strap. Come up halfway. Exhale, bow over the legs. Inhale with that strap coming all the way back up. And palms meet right here in the heart space. So we've got that strap. We're switching sides. So if you're using the wall, you can bring the right hand to the wall, left foot into the strap. Open that left palm out to the sides. So the strap is in your palm. Bend the knee. So nothing fancy here when we bend the knee. All we're doing is taking the slack out of the strap. So it's just this kind of inchworm deal, walking the fingers towards the foot. No kicking back or anything crazy yet. No back bend yet. Thighs are parallel. Awesome. All right, now very slowly, you're just going to start to pull on that strap and angle the elbow out to the side. And then maybe reach that elbow up towards the ceiling. Once you're here, if you want, you can add just a little bit of push that foot, kick it back into that strap very gently, feeling the back bend, the chest lifted for dancer's pose. If you want to add the balance, you can start to take that right arm off the wall. And slowly let that strap slip through your hand. Ragdoll over. Let all the breath out. Maybe a little sway here. And in that back space, open up for breath. All right. Next, I'm just going to start to bend the knees. You can drop the strap and just kind of make your way to about the center of your mat. And we'll move through a couple of cat and cows. There's been a lot of focus on back bends this morning. So inhale, drop the belly. Exhale, round into your cat pose. Tuck the tailbone under. And one more round. Perfect. All right. Take the hips back. Let's take a child's pose once again. Just very nourishing to the back. Slowing your breath down. And rising up to hands and knees. Let's go ahead and just kind of crawl to the top edges of your mat. You can walk your hands over to one side, lower the hips, come into a seated position. Sukhasana, easy pose. Sit up nice and tall. Close your eyes for just a moment. Are you still in the present moment? If you're not, just focus on that breath. Allow your breath to lengthen. Take a nice deep inhale. On your exhale, drop your chin to your chest. Feel that neck hang, a little stretch in the back of the neck. On your next inhale, just kind of roll that right ear over to the right shoulder. And exhale, chin back to the center. Next inhale, left ear, left shoulder. And exhale back to the center. 180, one more time to each side. Inhale. Roll the neck to the side and exhale center. Last time. All right, take your legs out in front of you and flex those ankles. Hands right here at the side of your hips. So you want to plant that full palm down to the mat. You're kind of pressing into the ground and lifting up through the crown of the head. Inhale, take the arms overhead. Nice. On your exhale, hinge, just hinge. So the hinge is right at the hips. No focus on reaching the feet, just hinge. Straight back. And then inhale, come back up, nice and tall. All right, so staying honest with ourselves. How far can you hinge? I can hinge maybe 20 degrees this morning, maybe 30. So just hinge. And inhale, come back up. And maybe last time, hinge. Perfect. Inhale, come up nice and tall. All right, take your hands back down to your sides and bend your knees. We're going to come on back onto our forearms. So walk the knees in, or the heels in, and maybe just a little gentle rock here. Twist nice and slow. Draw the navel to the spine. That's going to help protect our low back. And then whenever you're ready, come all the way down onto your back. And let's take a nice long stretch. So reach the arms overhead. Option to interlace those fingers and press the palms away. Perfect. Now before we go into Shavasana, that final last pose, you decide what you might need in this moment. So maybe you're there, maybe you're ready for Shavasana and I can stop talking. Or maybe you want to come into that happy baby or a bridge pose, any pose of your choice. Now, if you have that blanket still handy from when we were kneeling. You can start to cover up with that blanket if you'd like. Or maybe just set that blanket right on the mid-torso for that grounding effect. So taking your time, making your way into Shavasana, using that blanket if you'd like. Super important to take this time in Shavasana. The mind, the body, the soul is all very, very complicated. We need to take this time to restore. Grounding here. And very slowly wiggling fingers and toes, beginning to wake your body up. Maybe you can reach the arms overhead. Gather the knees. Maybe give yourself a nice nourishing hug here. Just roll on to one side. Rest your head on that upper arm. Draw the knees into the chest. Just notice how you feel right now, right here. Very slowly, use that top hand. Begin to make your way to seated. And bring our hands to the heart space. So bowing our head into that space. So maybe just taking a couple of breaths here, just maybe a little separation at the palms and just kind of breathing into this space. Noticing what you have control over. Maybe it's just our breath. And then begin to lift those palms up to the crown chakra. So this is to send good energy out into the rest of the world. To our lips for the right words, because words matter. And to our heart space for compassion. Light me honors that same light in each of you. Namaste.